I'd like to call to order this Brunswick City Commission work session for Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Our discussion will revolve around the overview of the zoning ordinance revisions, and we'll call forward Director Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. If you can give me just a minute, we're trying to get.
Yes, sir. Not a problem. Take your time.
Care of, so I can.
I've never done stand in recess, so I'm not sure. Do I have to take a vote for that? Okay, well, we'll stand in recess.
Naomi, do you have a written agenda for us? Don't have one? Yeah. Where are they? I got the addendum, but I don't have the agenda. Thank you.
Hello. Hey, I'm having trouble with this Zoom on the connecting to the, see right now it's saying Carolina Collins. It says share to the page. I guess I'll just share it to the page, go live.
So it's not just me.
I've sent them too. So I guess I'll go into webinar. I guess I'll go into the edit. Even though it's already started, it won't let me do that. The one I sent them. Here, send re-invite invitation. And we see putting anything on there. Panelists. Is he a panelist?
Recording in progress.
Yes, all right, you got it. I'm good. Thank you. I'm connected. I don't know if anybody else. Okay. Mr. Mayor, our IT folks tell us that we're ready. So
Ready to go. Good deal. We are now back from recess and we'll turn it over to Director Hunter.
thank you, Mayor. And there we go. Now I think I've got it going. Thank you, Mayor and Commission, for this opportunity tonight to present to you our zoning ordinance revisions. This will be an overview similar to what we did when Russ Moraine and I sat down and went through our ordinances with you over the last couple of weeks. And I appreciate that time, and you'll get some valuable input. As you'll know, this project began right about the time that we started the pandemic in 2020. And the focus of the effort by the Planning Development and Codes Department and the Planning and Appeals Commission, with support from the Coastal Regional Commission, has been to edit and update the Brunswick zoning ordinance with the following objectives in mind: to delete, modify, or add provisions that no longer apply or are needed to make the ordinance clearer and more effective, to make the ordinance more user-friendly and efficient to use and administer, to remove outdated provisions that are no longer needed or apply to current conditions, to clarify language and intent of ordinance provisions and regulations, to improve organization of articles and sections within the ordinance, to make it easier to locate appropriate guidance and regulations governing uses and their development requirements within each specific district in the city, and to eliminate certain zones no longer needed and create new zones that are more appropriate to meet current development goals and conditions. The base of our ordinance was created in the 1980s, and there were numerous amendments after that time, with the last being in 2018. This led to a number of inconsistencies and confusing duplications of many elements of the ordinance, making it difficult for the public to use and understand, and for the city staff and the Planning Commission to administer and enforce. So over 15 meetings during the past 2.5 years, the Planning and Appeals Commission spent time going over different drafts of different elements of our zoning ordinance. We also took input from all of our commissioners at the time of things that they had noted as we had done different planning presentations over the years that they found contradictory or incomplete in some way, shape, or form, or just areas where they felt like we should beef things up or relax different items. We took all of that and kind of mashed it all up together and threw it against the wall, and realized that we needed to kind of break this up into different phases to be able to really tackle it. One of the first things that we did was update all of our definitions. The definitions are really the base of your ordinance. They tell you really a whole lot about the different elements that you'll be dealing with. We spent a significant amount of time with text reorganization, where we found that things, if you looked at our existing code as it is, I might have to flip between 3 different sections to answer a single question. It was really inefficient. So how could we take that information and get it from where you found it to where you actually needed it? We spent a great deal of time going over our home occupations. The pandemic was probably the best time to do that because we saw a major shift in how people were working and how businesses were operating. So we looked real closely at our home occupation requirements, accessory dwelling units, ADUs. We had no real definition of them. One of the interesting things about Brunswick's history of ordinances, Brunswick is one of the first cities in Georgia. It was one of the original 7 cities in Georgia to petition the state legislature to allow zoning. So we were in the very first batch of cities having zoning. And at the very beginning of Brunswick's zoning in the 20s and 30s, accessory dwelling units were allowed by right throughout the city. So as y'all know, when you drive around, you'll see a lot of homes, depending on where you are. You may have carriage houses with apartments over them. You may just have a small single garage apartment in back. You may have duplexes or quadplexes. You may have apartments broken up, a single apartment within a larger home. But there were all sorts of ways that these accessory dwelling units operated in the city. And in the 1960s, we outlawed them. So we had all of these units throughout the city. And as we are looking at affordable housing, it makes sense to actually really legalize those that are existing, and where should we do those? So we spend a lot of time looking at that issue and trying to address that in different situations throughout the city. We spent a good deal of time looking at our parking requirements and where we should have parking requirements and where we shouldn't. We completely revised the buffer ordinance section. And the city commission has actually already approved that. We brought that forward as we saw that was something that was more of an immediate need. So that was actually approved in 2021. So that has been in effect and working over the last 2 years. We also revised the sign ordinance. And that was adopted by the city commission as well in 2021. And it's now been in effect for a couple of years. So that detailed the first phase. The second phase really got into the meat of the ordinances. One of the major problems that we had was that in the existing ordinance, we had what was called pyramiding. So we have the unusual case of residential being allowed in all of our zoning except for our industrial zones. So that created conflicts in a lot of areas where you have dedicated general or highway commercial zones, but mixed in with it, you have housing. So we looked at what may be appropriate housing wise in a general commercial or highway commercial zone, and then eliminated those uses that we found were not as applicable, and tried to do away with that pyramiding. So highway commercial is what should be in a highway zone. Office commercial is what should house offices. And while sometimes it was convenient for mixed uses, it really did create a lot of conflict overall. We spent a great deal of time with our development charts. That was one thing that came forward from feedback from many of the commission. We took all the information that you needed to know about the uses in a particular zone or the development standards and created a dedicated chart for each one of those. We'll see that in a little bit more detail coming up. We also spent a good bit of time on the office and commercial zones, in particular with neighborhood commercial. Because of that pyramiding that had taken place, the neighborhood what we called local commercial, was pyramided, as I mentioned. And so there were a number of things that, if you think of neighborhood commercial, those are things, or local commercial, those are things that should be able to coexist in a residential setting. A small market, a small cafe or restaurant, those type of some small offices or small retail. The idea is that it kind of thinking of kind of a traditional corner store concept. And we were allowing laundromats and all sorts of larger things that really didn't fit within that. So we really looked at that very closely. The existing general commercial core and the general residential core, which was a very little used zoning classification. We looked at those really closely because of the intent of those. General commercial cores are downtown mixed use zoning. So essentially what we have along Newcastle Street and parts of Gloucester. The idea there is that it is heavily mixed use and is very dense and well developed. So it has some exclusions from things like parking requirements that you don't have in other area of the city. And as we looked at that and also looked at our zoning map, we realized that we actually had a much larger mixed use zone than we actually had zoned. If you kind of went out from the main Newcastle Street area and started looking at our zoning map, other than industrial, we had, well, actually technically even industrial if you went across Bay Street, but if you kind of push down Gloucester and up Norwich and over to Albany streets, you had a real mix of every zoning classification all within about a 12 block area. So we expanded that out and created a new zone called the Much Zone, or the Mixed Use Commercial Core Historic District. It's a mouthful, which is why we use much, to try to take in what really is our main commercial areas downtown. Similarly, we realized with a lot of more institutional uses that we had a lot of conflict back and forth between our larger business areas. How do churches expand? How do schools expand? How does the hospital expand? So we created a new zoning classification that looked at those. That is called an institutional zone, and we'll see a little bit more about that in just a moment. We also spent a good bit of time in the second phase looking at our planned development. As we've started growing again, we've seen a lot of planned developments come forward. And we realized on the planning commission side that our process and our application and our requirements weren't meeting our needs. So we consolidated a lot of information from different components and really made one planned development category. I think we had 4 in our existing ordinance. All that being said, we actually really didn't change very much in terms of the base code. We didn't change our density structure. We didn't change setbacks. We really focused on those areas of need so that things were clearer and more precise. On the screen now, you'll see an example of the charts that have been developed out of this. One of the things that this revision has allowed us to do, so we've actually cut 50 pages out of our zoning ordinance, which that makes it much easier to use, much clearer. And we've also consolidated a number of categories, so that there are not as many zoning classifications. If we kind of zoom in a little bit here, you'll see that this chart on the left lays out, the residential uses. So it tells you in all of our residential zones in one chart. So we've got 3 residential zones, R9, R6, and general residential. It tells you what type of dwellings you can have in each, what type of accessory uses, and what type of conditional uses are allowed in those zones. On the right-hand side is the development standard chart. So you can see very clearly in each one of those zones what our lot sizes are, what our minimum requirements size-wise for setbacks are, how we would deal with duplex or 2 families, townhouses, and so on and so forth. So before, as I mentioned, I would have to flip between 3 different sections of our ordinance to be able to gain the information that's on this chart. So it is much more efficient all the way around. The second major change that I mentioned were the 2 new zoning categories. The much zone is in the and these are draft maps. So I'll talk a little bit about process in just a moment after this. The map on the left on your screen, it's also in your packet as well, that shows kind of the downtown area. Is the area in green is what we envision as being the much zone. And you see that encompasses our traditional downtown of Newcastle, and goes a good bit out Gloucester all the way to 17. It goes all the way up to L Street. So it encompasses a lot of the traditional business areas along Norwich and along Albany, and the little bit that is along MLK as well. And on that same map, you see some of the proposed institutional zoning, and it's things that make sense. Areas where you have large clusters of schools and churches, like around Glen Academy and St. Francis. The county courthouse complex, we would put into this institutional zone. And then on the right-hand side, you see a much larger area. That would be the institutional zone that encompasses the hospital, the College of Coastal Georgia, and Brunswick High School. So the concept there is that those type uses have very specific needs. They also are areas where there's strong potential for conflicting neighboring zones to happen. So we're trying to consider not only future growth of those locations, but also how to maintain the residential areas adjacent to them just as well. So that is kind of an overview of our zoning changes process that we've gone through to date. I'll pause here because I've said a lot, for just any quick questions that you have before I talk a little bit about process from here on out.
With the rezoning, are all properties that, I think that, no longer comply?
So
Are they grandfathered in until a new owner? That's correct.
right, and so if there was a non-compliant use in one of these new zones, they would be grandfathered in. We don't necessarily go by ownership. It's more about what's called the expansion of the nonconformity. Just kind of it's not a fun term, but essentially what you think of as grandfathering is if it stays in use as it is, even if that transfers from one owner to the next, that use would continue forward until that use lapses, I believe, for more than 6 months at a time. So after that 6-month period, that use would not be allowed there anymore. I don't know that we would have a whole lot of that happen. Because one of the things a next phase in this, after we're done with actual words, our next phase is actually really to go through the map and look at where we have things that are not zoned appropriately and rework our map so that the current use is reflected in the zoning as closely as we can match that. An idea there is we have a number of things that should be zoned local commercial that were built as commercial and have operated as commercial for 40, 50 years, and they're zoned general residential. So local commercial would be compatible with that. We just have to make it work on the map.
And assuming that we'll update.
The index for all of this
Yeah,
now.
so that's another component that we have to do going forward. So we have to basically codify this. So as this moves into the actual physical real code, we've got, everything has to be gone through to make sure that it actually matches up with other areas of the code. So we're creating as few conflicts as possible.
And one last question. Andrew's Place or Andrews Square, that's on the waterfront near Russell. Okay. So that's mixed use, I guess. It has evolved into that where you've got some residential, you've got businesses, but I don't think there's necessarily any retail over there.
No,
So is that part of the zoning now or
so
not?
So yeah, it actually is. That's probably a good example of how our existing ordinance is pyramided.
Yeah.
So that is, I believe, zone general commercial
Mm-hmm.
currently. Although it may be office commercial. I'm without the map
Yeah,
in front of me.
yeah.
It's one of those two. And allowed uses within our current general commercial and office commercial, single
Yes.
family, duplex, multifamily, all of our residential uses. So, and that's why, looking on the map a little bit, that's one of those areas that we proposed being in that much zone.
Okay.
So that we already have that mixed use existing, it would be able to stay in place.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
All right, so I'll just follow this up with a little bit about process from here so that we'll be able to move on to the main meeting. So later this month, we're looking around the 29th or 30th of March. We'll do another public open forum. Y'all don't have to be there, but you're more than welcome to attend. We'll send invitations out through the neighborhood, through the NPAs, information on our website. We'll host a little bit more detailed public opportunity like this so that anybody who's interested in really getting into the nuts and bolts, we're able to talk about them with the nuts and bolts. And we've also posted this on the website. So you have in your packet two very lengthy documents. One is the redlined version of the existing code so that you see physically how everything changed from beginning to end. And then there is a clean version up through now that has none of the edits really in it and has the use charts and the new map in there as well. Those are currently posted on the planning section of the city website. Tomorrow I'll go live with on the webpage, we've got the little news items that scroll across the front. I'll have one of those live with a direct link to it. So anybody who's really wants to sit down and read for fun can click on that, go directly to these documents. I've got my email address listed there for any feedback that somebody's got. So we'll open this up to a little bit more of a public vetting. After we've got that feedback, then it would come back to the commission for a short review of if there's any major shifts that we feel like we have to go through because of that. And then bring it forward for approval later on this spring. So,
And that will be communicated with all the NPAs.
yes,
Okay,
yeah, I'll
yeah.
send that out directly within the next day or so with all the NPAs. I've got one other meeting I've got to set during those 2 days first. Once I've got that, we'll have that
Very good.
public meeting ready.
John, you alluded to washaterias or washing places where you wash your clothes.
Laundromat, well, laundromats, one,
Laundromat.
washateria is one of my favorite ones because you think, there's a term for the car washes too, that was like an auto mat or something like that in our definitions. It was very 1950s.
Let me tell you, in Brunswick, Georgia, you didn't have a residential neighborhood that did not have one.
Right.
They were everywhere. People did not have washing machines until sometime in probably the mid-50s, they really started to multiply, but
Yeah.
you had them on Gloucester Street, you had them on G Street, you had really a lot of commercial on G Street. Is this going to change any of that on G Street? And make it so that you can't come back with some of the stuff, a very large lot there that is owned by the church there. The front of that was called Ham's Grocery Store. And then the man that owned all the little houses that consumed the rest of the whole block, his name was Ernest Krebs. And then you had a photo shop. I could tell you the name of it, but it's back there somewhere. And then you had just an office there where people, so I think it was 4 commercial they were one building, but 4 storefronts there. And that's right in that very large lot now. That was what fronted G Street until all that stuff got torn down. That's not good. This is not going to prohibit that, is it?
No, I don't think it would. In fact, I
Good.
think it would actually potentially facilitate more of that type mixed use.
Sure.
Would be smaller scale, obviously smaller scale. You're working within our existing block structure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it would help facilitate that smaller kind of incremental development that could be mixed use. Where you could do a nice 2-story building with a storefront on the first floor and residential on the second.
I'll just share with you right there on Gloucester Street, across catty-cornered from the city market there. That corner there on, I believe, Lee Street, that was Cook's Grocery Store. And then you had another laundromat right next to Cook's. I mean, and they were used too. They really were.
Yeah.
And I believe you had 4 different storefronts there, similar to what you had on G Street. So. But I'd like to say in general too, while I'm talking, what you're doing here is really, really needed, and that it's going to make it so much better for everybody to, like you say, to come in and ask questions and to figure out things for themselves too. So,
Well, I have to really thank our planning commission members. And Russ Moran, who started out as a consultant with us and liked us so much, he's come to work for me. And without that hard work over the last 2 years, this was something that has been talked about for, I know that you and Commissioner Martin can attest, was talked about before my time working for the city. So being able to see it accomplished, we're really excited about.
yeah, this was started probably by Julie and one of our attorneys not long after you came on the committee. So it's just taken a while.
Yep. It's good.
Director Hunter, I want to say thank you. Quick question for me. Is anything in the zoning, and this is a new phenomenon, does anything in the zoning affect tiny homes or, I mean, I drive through some areas and I do wonder about different tiny home communities, but you have an area that used to
Yeah.
have one house on it and now maybe have 2 or.
So that is something that we addressed. Right now, we define tiny homes. right now, we would recommend doing those as a small plan development. Very similar to actually the two communities that we have under construction. The Veterans Village was done as a plan development. You can, on any legal platted lot within the city of Brunswick, this is something we haven't changed. If it is a legally platted lot of any size, you can always build a house on it, a single family residence, that's regardless of zoning, actually, still. We have a lot of unused, very small lots. And we go by the International Residential Code, I believe, which I think allows us the smallest home to be 250 square feet. So, that we've got provisions to allow it. And we've allowed a number of, we're seeing it more and more, where I think we got an application in last night for an 840 square foot traditionally built house. That's the other end of the spectrum from what we used to see, where it was 3,500 square feet. You saw obviously a lot more of those out in the county, but we do address both an individual tiny house on an individual lot, or more of a community development like we've seen.
So if I owned a lot of land.
Yep.
I put a tiny home on it. There's room for another tiny home. Would I have to split that lot, or can I just go put another tiny home?
And that's something we may need to come back to with a little bit more input. I would say the biggest answer there would be depending on the size of the lot and how that meets with our density requirements. So
You're talking about subdividing and selling?
no, so subdividing, we've got a minimum lot size. So subdividing might be a little bit more difficult, but actually building a second tiny home on your own property, it's probably going to depend on the size of the lot more than anything else, and where it's located.
Yes, sir. Those are all of the questions I have. Any additional questions from the commission? Thank you so much, Director Hunter. We look forward to being in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings to a conclusion the Brunswick City Commission work session. We will now, I don't know if I have to officially adjourn from that. We'll now adjourn that and move on. And I will call to order the Brunswick City Commission regularly scheduled commission meeting for Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. We will now stand for the invocation and pledge, and giving us our invocation tonight is Pastor Craig Campbell, pastor of Zion Baptist Church. We thank you for being with us this evening, a friend of not only Brunswick, but the family, and you've done a lot in our downtown community. So we appreciate your leadership.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you with thanksgiving. We invoke your presence upon this commission meeting. We lift up our nation and our governmental leaders and authority. Allow us to have a productive and fruitful meeting tonight. Grant our leaders wisdom, guidance, and unity to do what's best for all people, our community. In God we trust. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Now move on to the adoption of the March 1st, 2023 regularly meeting agenda. Do we have any addendums or subtractions?
Yes, I'll make a motion to amend the current agenda. Adding under city attorney's items as item number 10 to consider approval of payment of the excise tax proceeds from the tax sale of the parcel number 01-04-148 in the amount of $1,909.31.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. I want to take a point of personal privilege to honor our city manager. Regina McDuffie has not only been a blessing to our community, she has worked hand in hand with this commission. She's worked hand in hand with citizens around our city. And she's worked hand in hand with governments, not only our county government, but governments throughout the Southeast and throughout the state of Georgia to bring smart, transparent, and coherent solutions to cities and counties. We are blessed to call her our city manager, and we want to honor her the same way the International City and County Management Association has. And I will read from this beautiful plaque. In honor of 25 years of service to local government, Regina McDuffie is recognized for significant contributions and achievements in the advancement of local government administrations. I want to take a moment, stand up, and just give you a hand. I'm going to ask Brian to do something he's not good at, which is take a picture. And
Look at the clerk's office.
oh, Naomi, whoever's good at taking a picture. But there we go. There we go. Get a picture. with-
Thank you. No, I'm not good at taking pictures. He's worried. He's worried.
And say thank you enough for your service. We bother you all times of day and night. And your phone's always available. So we want to say thank you. We'll now move on to the public comment period. What we want to do, because we have a long meeting, we're going to keep our public comments in this period to 3 to 5 minutes. The public comments in response to any liquor licenses or any questions about that, we're going to keep those to 2 minutes. Just to make sure we can continue to move through our agenda. But we want to thank everybody for being here this evening. I would love to say y'all are here for me, but I'm sure y'all are here for other reasons. But public comment, we're going to open it up with, I don't want to mess up this name. Megan DeRozier from 100 Mile to address commission regarding Glen Avenue Design Framework. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Rozier.
Thank you. And thank you for Commissioner Martin for helping him with my name. I'm going to pass out a couple of things if that's okay. There's 5 there. So one for
Okay.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight regarding the Glen Avenue Design Framework. This is actually a presentation that Commissioner Harris requested. I'm here tonight with some friends, Mary and Rhonda, and the 3 of us have coordinated our time so that we can present to you a clear picture and use the total 9 minutes that we have efficiently. I'm the founding and current CEO of an organization called 100 Miles, which I know you have all heard of. We are located in the city of Brunswick and have been here for 10 years. Actually, Commissioner Martin helped bring us here and helped us figure out where to be and how to locate. And today our office is located at 7 Glen Avenue in a building that we purchased in 2021. Our mission is to preserve and protect Georgia's 100-mile coast through advocacy, education, and civic engagement. An important part of our mission includes working with community members to advocate for development policies, and ordinances that will improve our built environment within the city of Brunswick and across the coast of Georgia. We know coastal Georgia is a special place, and new developments need to enhance that place. They need to respect coastal Georgia's unique character, and they need to improve the access people have to our natural resources. You all are in a position that I know you know every day to consider proposals to build new communities within the city of Brunswick. And as you consider these proposals, I'm sure you think about what they will add to our city. In addition to tax revenue, they should also bring better functionality, aesthetics, and access to Brunswick's key features. In essence, they should improve our quality of life. The Glen Avenue Design Framework was a document that we at 100 Miles commented on and gave input for when it was originally considered and passed. In fact, we know that many in our community commented enthusiastically because we all understood that the development it outlines or requires could bring new amenities to our city, most notably an accessible waterfront. The framework lays out the requirements for developing this exciting new area of our city. Now, the ability to develop anywhere in the city of Brunswick is a privilege, not a right. In exchange for the ability to develop, developers must comply with the laws the city puts in place to govern that development. So the three of us are here tonight to talk to you today because we are concerned about new plans that are progressing for a property that was annexed just north of the Glen Avenue Design Framework area. And I have a map here. So this map shows the Glen Avenue Design Framework. Down here, the property that you all annexed is just right up here, relating to the design framework. You have that map in front of you. We're concerned because when this property was annexed, it's being developed by a company called VC Dirt. And when this property was annexed, it came into the city with a PD zoning and a site plan that was not in compliance with the Glen Avenue Design Framework. We were told this was temporary, but the zoning since then has not changed, and the land is being moved on the site in a way that would violate the conditions of the design framework. The Glen Avenue Design Framework is an ordinance. Of course, the City Commission can grant variances, as you know, to any ordinance and approve developments that don't comply with an ordinance. But in doing so, you must consider the reason those ordinances exist and the consequences of straying from the ordinances. Most directly, the neighboring property owners who are residents and voters in the city will be impacted by variances granted. So we, as a business owner on Glen Avenue who purchased our property after this ordinance was passed, I can say with sincerity that the Glen Avenue Design Framework is one of the reasons that we located there, because we felt the framework was a good idea and we wanted to be nearby. So I'm here today with Mary and Ronna to share the story of why we are not happy with the way things are going. And the main reason is that the city is not requiring the developer to comply with the Glen Avenue Design Framework. We rely on you to ensure that our ordinances are enforced and upheld. And before Mary and Rhonda give you the specifics, I wanted to just talk to you about some of the requirements that the Glen Avenue Framework requires so that you can be aware. So I'm just going to read a few of you, and they are tabbed in that ordinance that you gave. Those tabs that you see in the ordinance that I gave you, these are the ones that I want to highlight. So first it says the Glen Avenue Design Framework shall be the design guidelines, which include a design plan and associated design criteria to demonstrate how the design goals and objectives will be accomplished. So I just want to point out, this is a shall, not a may in your ordinance. Property owners within the district shall submit development plans in accordance with the provisions of this district. All development shall be set back from the marsh jurisdiction by a minimum of 45 feet. Pedestrian comfort shall be a primary consideration of thoroughfares. Design conflict between vehicular and pedestrian movement generally shall be decided in favor of the pedestrian. Adjacent parcels shall be interconnected in order to facilitate local access between developments. Prior to the issuance of a land disturbance permit, a site plan shall be approved, which indicates all specimen trees and identifies all specimen trees proposed for removal. lots shall provide at least one canopy tree for every 50 feet of frontage. Canopy trees shall be planted in tree islands which shall have 400 square feet of unpaved soil for root development. Pedestrian comfort shall be a primary consideration of thoroughfares. So those are just a few. I think there are 169 shalls or shall be's within that document, which outline the requirements any developer needs to follow as they develop this property. So as you listen to my friends Mary and Rhonda's stories, please keep in mind that the three of us are existing residents of Brunswick, and we are investors in property on Glen Avenue. We are not in favor of developing this waterfront area if it is not in compliance with the Glen Avenue design framework. We are in favor of developing this waterfront area if it is within the requirements of the Glen Avenue design framework. This property needs to be developed according to the ordinance. And we really are imploring you to require VC Dirt, the company that is developing the property, to comply with the design framework. It's gone through the process. The public is supportive of the framework, and we are too, but we are not supportive of the way the development is moving forward. Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry. I thought someone else was coming after you. Oh, I'm done. Let me go back. Hold on. And make sure. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I thought you had someone else coming up when you said 10 minutes, but you got it. You go ahead. You're all together? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Yes, ma'am. All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Or evening,
Good evening.
should I say.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a resident and an owner at Marshview condominiums. And here to talk about this 50% site plan. It does not meet the 7 guidelines of the Glen Avenue design framework. And which I am in favor of development as long as it's according to this plan. From the very beginning, this developer has ignored the city of Brunswick permit codes, and we at Marshview have suffered because of this daily for months. The construction fence was put up with total disregard for us being able to safely pull out onto Highway 17. It obstructed our view. I called the permit department, and after many days of calling, the developer did finally take down a very small portion of the fence. We still have to inch out into that very first lane of traffic, and we can't see far enough down to know if that car is going 50 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour in order to judge for us to pull out. Based on this 50% plan, there's going to be a fence / wall of 8 foot. It's going to come 15 foot off of Highway 17. In front of that wall fence, there's going to be landscaping. We're not going to be able to see to pull out. That's just not going to work. In the plan that I was looking at the Glen Avenue design plan, it said 25 feet for the frontage. They were not using a water truck to water down the concrete dust. They're supposed to do that. They're supposed to do it every day while they were crushing that rock. They've not done it since the very beginning of the demolition process. I called code, the code department, and I know that they were spoken to about it. They brought a water truck on site, and it just sits on site. They're not using it. I can see from my condo, from my upstore window, I can see what's going on in this development. And they're not doing it. So here again, another total disregard for us, the neighbors at Marshview. On the GADG principle number 2, it states marshes, waterway, and scenic vistas are natural resources that should be available and accessible to all. This plan is gated and keeps the visitors and the very taxpayers that help pay for the city of Brunswick to, for these projects. This is not the way this was designed. It's not supposed to be a gated community keeping people out. It is the responsibility of our commissioners to protect us. And we're asking that you please protect us from this. Because once it goes past this 50%, there's no turning back. Y'all know about this reputation of this developer. Everything that he has done follows a trail behind him of destruction. Clear cut lots. And it's needlessly. The city of Brunswick has an opportunity to show other communities how to carry out a mixed use project successfully from conception to completion. It should show, we can show how to do minimal impact on the beautiful area that we live in so that we and future generations can enjoy these gifts that we are surrounded by living in Brunswick on the coast of Georgia. Every one of you sitting here before me are important, and y'all have voices that are much louder than mine. And I beg, I hope that you're hearing us and that you are going to speak for us and stand up to this developer and tell them no. We just need to get this back on track to the original plan, to which he's not on. So please hear us and protect us and be our voices. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we will have Miss Mary McFadden.
I live at Marshview Condominium, which borders the proposed Island View Apartments. And I want to be clear that I'm not opposed to development, but I strongly believe the development should conform to the Glen Avenue design framework. Symbiosity was the company that was hired at taxpayer expense, and community input was solicited to develop the design framework. I was very impressed with the far-sighted vision of the plan, and it heavily influenced my decision to buy a condominium in the design district. Island View Apartments will be the first development in the design district that will set the standard for future development in the district. Unfortunately, the current site plan does not conform to many of the standards of the Glen Avenue design framework. I only have time for a couple examples, but example number 1 in guiding principle number 3 states responsible development should minimize impact to the sensitive natural environment. The area under development provided habitat for native wildlife and provided nesting for Georgia terrapins. Unfortunately, the developer has downplayed the fact that the removal of 58 trees will clear cut the site. The clear cutting of all the trees and underbrush will destroy the habitat and food source for the native wildlife, and we won't be able to enjoy the sounds at Marshview anymore. My second example of not following the Glen design framework is design principle number 4, which indicates the development should be blocks and streets that foster a main street character. And if you look in the design framework that you receive, this map is in there, and that's showing the concept of the Glen Avenue design, and it is blocks and streets and a whole lot of trees. The current plan, there's no main street character in the new development, no blocks, no streets, just densely packed large apartment buildings. And throughout the design framework, references are made to human scale apartments and businesses. The apartment buildings illustrated in the design framework are 4 to 12 units in size. And there's pictures of them in the design plan that you have. The developer's proposed site plan is for 24 unit buildings, which is double the maximum size in the framework. And it does not fit with the human scaled, smaller Main Street features that were part of the Glen Avenue design framework. At Marshview, we're already experiencing problems with this developer. The site plan shows that they're going to build a building or a parking lot right on top of our storm drain. For some reason, Marshview storm drain system runs on to the Island View property and makes a 90-degree turn towards the marsh. If they damage or disable our storm drain, our lowest lying areas at Marshview are not going to drain, and that is 50% of our drainage. We have 4 storm drains, and that's 2 of them that are affected by that development. And that has not been addressed, and I'm afraid it won't be, and we'll suffer a huge financial loss. The contractors currently working on the site, VC Dirt, don't respect our property. We've had multiple dump trucks and semi trucks from the construction site drive across our property. Last week, a semi truck ran across the dirt that holds our sign at the Highway 17 entrance and did damage to it. They're parking their pickup trucks in our grassy areas that are our property at the entrance, and they're caught killing our grass and leaving deep ruts. I don't understand why city officials are allowing a developer to deviate from an established development plan. The developer was aware his proposed development is in a special design district, and he's demonstrated that he doesn't intend to comply with the design guidelines, and city officials are allowing it. The taxpayers are not getting the type of design we paid Symbiosity to develop. We depend on city officials to protect us and hold the developer accountable. The city commission has an opportunity to leave a lasting legacy. Please don't let your legacy be an unattractive, high-density apartment complex that destroys the natural beauty of the marsh. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden, I know I've had the chance to come out and visit with you and your HOA and see the property and see the lines that you're talking about, the vegetation that you talked about. I know we've talked about the buffer between the development and you all's property, and I was able to meet with a lady whose property floods pretty significantly. She's in the house. There she is. Good to see you again. What I want to take a minute to do right now before we move on is Director Hunter, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but can you explain a little bit about where we are in the process? And let's ensure that the same as we did last time and when you came before, I always like to make sure I come out and meet with you all and see it directly. The things that you all told me about, I put forward to them. So when we talked about where the fence is, to make sure it isn't establishing something on that water runway that you all showed me along that line, to make sure we're not disturbing that. I know that density has been lessened from the original plan, but we're still not hitting these design frameworks as put in front of us. So I want you to just tell us a little bit about where the process is, make sure we know how the commission can speak to these guys directly on these issues, but also where the public can come in and give their comment.
So at our Planning and Appeals Commission meeting this for February, so it's just passed. We did do a 50% review of their site plan. It was fairly exhaustive. Yeah, I can provide my point. What we went through with you, spent about an hour going over that plan in detail. A number of the things that have been talked about were pointed out as part of that review process. There are some other things that they're still working on. They will come back at a future date for their 90% plan review at the Planning Commission, and then that will come to the City Commission for final approval. One of the
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
At that 90% plan review, I know at the 50%, there were several members of the public who showed up hoping to be able to voice their concerns.
Yeah.
At the 90%.
90%, at the 90%, we will do public hearing for the 90%, since that is the more formal approval process. That will be at the Planning Commission and here as well.
Wonderful. I want to make sure before we move on, I heard some pretty direct issues that we got the development part that we're going to continue to work on and continue to put forward. The things that contiguous communities have an issue with to see what we should move forward with and work out. But there are also some pretty direct issues like damage to the sign, parking on property that is not theirs, and also the water truck issue. It was good to hear that a water truck is out there, but if it's not being used, let's stay vigilant to make sure that's happening. So if at all possible, if you can give me the contact information for those people, and Miss Naomi can set up a call, and I will call them directly from the commission to ask about those.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And thank you all for your public comment. Thank you all for showing up this evening. We'll now move on to public hearings for new alcohol and beverage licenses. The first one that we have up is H&H Mini Mart LLC DBA In and Out. So the In and Out. We have both the owners with us, Mr. Patel, and the manager, Mr. Dalal. And the business address is 1603 L Street, retail sales of beer and wine. Officer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As the mayor mentioned, we do have both owners for In and Out here. Mr. Jalal and Mr. Patel. I know I usually don't read anything.
Say that one
I
time.
usually don't read anything on the file, but it was brought to my attention just before the meeting
Yes, ma'am.
by a few individual citizens
Yes, ma'am.
that they were asked to sign a petition for in favor of an alcohol license. So when they came up to present, so I just like to make you guys aware of that. They
Yes, ma'am.
were given a monetary gift to sign a petition.
Persuading, if you will. There we
Yes.
go. Okay.
So, and I think those three citizens may still be here.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
believe they are. If they want to speak, you can ask, but I will ask them as well, but you can speak with the owners as of now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Mr. Patel and Mr. Dalal, am I pronouncing that right? Okay. Thank you for being with us today. I want to, this is a place that is known to our community. And so I want to open it up for me not to start, but open it up for questions from the commission, or any questions that you all may have for those who are seeking a license.
Both of you are the owners? Okay, so you're wanting to open up a new business at the In and Out to sell, what else do you plan on? Yeah. Okay, what do you plan on selling
I'm
besides?
sorry, can you make sure whoever's talking talks into the mic so everyone can hear you and also they can hear you online? Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
What do you plan on selling besides
Yeah,
beer?
we sell like beer, wine, tobacco, cigarettes, and groceries. Lotteries.
So fruit, vegetables,
like
chips,
Chips, food, groceries, like food, canned chips, canned drinks or soda, everything.
okay.
Like-
Did you
and-
look anywhere else in Glenn County to open up a business instead of that particular location?
This is my existing location. We used to on 10 year on this location.
Okay, because the issue that I have, because that's my area where I live, is the fact that we already have a liquor store that's down the street. And then you'll be selling beer and wine. So my issue is bringing so much malt liquor and beverage locations in a area that's predominantly African-American, an area where there's an elementary school, an area where you have kids walking from elementary school, walking from high school, and walking from middle school. So that just strikes an issue with me because it's so many alcohol sales that are just surrounding the area. So, you're making money off of, individuals in the community, but I don't see very often where you're pouring back in the community, whether you're donating to scholarships or giving to churches. So that's the issue that I have with, you wanting to sell beer and wine. Because you can make money off of selling other things that kids like ice cream.
Yeah.
Once again, chips, you can sell vegetables, that can actually help the human body, right? But it's just, that's my issue with you wanting to, sell beer and wine, because it's so much. You have, once again, you have the L Street Liquors down the street, and then you go down a couple of blocks, and then you have, I don't know if it's the Fountain, I can't remember. So it's so much. So it has to be something that you can think that you could possibly sell to make money other than beer and wine. So that's just my opinion, okay? Okay.
Any questions? Want to keep opening it up? My initial questions, to be very honest, I know this has been a problem area for the city. I am always, and from the beginning of my administration, been a advocate and have pushed and have forced, before it wasn't happening, have forced every single alcohol or beer license that comes before us, that you must go before the MPA before we will consider it. I think you all had a meeting with the MPA.
Yeah.
And having that meeting with the MPA, I will ask, what do you all feel like the community sentiment was from that MPA? How do you feel? How do you feel that they felt about you all receiving your alcohol license, or what did they state towards you all wanting to serve alcohol in their community?
Of course, they don't want alcohol and beverage in that location.
And quick question, follow-up. Where is the closest place from you all where you can buy alcohol or beer or
I
wine?
think just 1 block from there.
1 block. Okay. You may not have these numbers in front of you, but what are your profit margins without alcohol sales?
Nothing, like 15 to 20%.
Okay.
But they don't give you volume.
Say that one more time.
They don't give you volume. The people come to buy the cigarette, chips, this beer, one-time shopping. Everybody like grocery. We go to grocery store, convenience store. They buy beer, drinks, chips, soda, cigarette one time. They don't give you. We buy alcohol here and go to a grocery for different store, like the convenience store. As like communicate the neighborhood convenience store.
Yes, sir. How many other locations do you all own?
Hmm?
How many other locations in our city do you all own?
We own like 3 locations.
You own 3 other locations?
Yeah.
Do all of those other locations sell alcohol?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
They own a city or county area, sorry.
Okay. I will be very honest. I want to take a moment to
Yeah,
Say-
we improve the property. Right now, we do drive-through.
Yep.
So we got like nobody, we easy to know people, like too much people hanging out outside. Everybody move fast and on a car, good service.
No, I understand, and I want to echo the sentiments of Commissioner Rowland. It's her area, and it's her area that she represents. But not only that, we had the chance to sit in attendance to the MPA meeting that you all were at, led by Ms. Collins and others. It seemed very clear and very direct that they were speaking for the gross amount of people who live in that community, that they are tired of their community and our community, frankly, being saturated with one-time shopping, whether it is alcohol, whether it's the cigarettes, whether it's the Black and Miles, or the chips that are unhealthy. So I believe that it is incumbent upon the city commission to ensure that we help businesses pivot to something that not only would be profitable for them, but also do good in our community. And so with that, I don't have any more questions. If the commission has any, I'll be happy to open it up.
My only comment would be the continual issues that we've had with other convenience stores selling beer and wine right in that same location. So
Agreed. With that, we will thank you and we will open it up for public comment in regards to the H&H Mini Mart LLC doing business as In-N-Out. So we would like you guys just step to the side, and anybody here to speak in favor or against, 2 minutes, and we'll be rocking and rolling. Yes, ma'am, you come on up behind Ms. Collins. How you doing, Ms. Collins?
I would like for the residents of Urbana Perry Park, if you don't want to stand, I would like you to stand. You don't have to come up here, but all I have to say is no. We don't want alcohol. The numbers of businesses that sells alcoholic beverages in the Urbana Perry Park neighborhood is astounding. The numbers are ridiculous. And I ask you to look at those numbers, okay? And that's my 2 minutes. Just know, you were there, you heard from our residents, and that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. It doesn't. If you still want to speak, y'all can come on up. You can come and line up behind. How you doing?
My name is Barbara Otto.
Yes, ma'am. And can you tell us where you live?
I live 2424 Cleburne Street.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
I
you.
was raised across the street from the liquor store on Gordon L. And we don't need another liquor store up there. And it's a church right in front of In-N-Out that no one is speaking of. First Rome Church of the Living God. I don't know how they got away with it this far, selling alcohol right across the street from a church. But we don't want that, because it's when they promised that if they got their license, that they was gonna take them back across the street to In-N-Out. See, I live there, I know everybody. So they're gonna tell me. They went out and gave them $5 yesterday to sign a petition so that they can get their liquor license. So we don't want that. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. How you doing this evening?
I also live in that area. I live in the 1600 block of Johnson Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Um,
Can you give us your name real quick?
yes, Kathy Moody Berrien.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And-
Address, please.
Say your
Your address.
I think she said 1600 address.
1628 Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
But I also too agree that there are too many places that is already selling alcoholic beverages. We're trying to improve our neighborhoods. We're trying to make a better place for our kids, our grandkids, and make it even a better place for right now for us where we're living. We have issues with speeding and everything else. And so if anybody that's drinking or, just out of control with alcohol, whether they think they're out of control or not, is a danger. And the young lady said, we've got kids walking from the high school, the elementary schools, and Burroughs Millette is just right down the street. The L Street Liquors is already in place. I'm not happy with that, so to have another place just thrust upon us, we don't need it. We don't even want it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, right behind you, Mr. Patel. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
My name is Betty Andrews, and I live at 2125 Bartow. And my son is Warren Lawrence. Many of you might know him. He worked with Board of Education for 30 years. And this morning he came, he didn't know I was at the meeting last night. He met a gentleman over there getting signatures for the liquor store, all of them across the street, all of them at liquor. And he told them they sign it. He told them not to sign it. He leaves and come tell me about it, and he go back and he done gave him $5 to sign it. That's appalling. It's bad, you know, that's bribery. And I don't want it in my neighborhood. I pick up enough liquor bottles, wine cans and everything already. So
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson,
Good to see you.
Commission, staff, the taxpayers of Brunswick, Georgia. I stand here representing Brunswick of Georgia. I stay 3 blocks away, heading north, away from the said business. And I think I'm sure I brought this, if you look in your recordings, I brought this complaint up a couple of years ago about it's a food desert in Brunswick, a quality food desert.
Yes, ma'am.
Quality service, even when you go in those establishments, not criticizing their establishments, but when you go in these convenience stores that predominantly sell alcohol and liquor, they don't have no respect for the community. And I support Commissioner Rowe and anyone else that stands, excuse me, please, that stands for, not that we don't want them to have businesses in our community and bring tax dollars, but we want them to bring quality business to our community.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
want clean businesses, we want quality food, and we want quality service. So I question no more liquor in our community because I'm tired of walking over beer cans and liquors, and I teach it personally.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Polite. Ms. Polite. Ms. Polite. Yeah. Was that somebody online?
This is me.
Okay. Commissioner Harris, yes, ma'am.
I just want to applaud the community and excuse me for not being able to be present. I have COVID, so I am not feeling well. But I just wanted to applaud the community for coming out and standing up and speaking for yourselves, to voice your opinion and to demonstrate what you want, and not only what you want, but what you're demanding for your community, as I do with all communities that have come out tonight, respect to the development on Highway 17 and the compliance with the Glen Avenue design requirements. So I just want to tell you all, continue to stand for your communities and to fight for your communities, because you have that right, you have that voice, and we are going to listen to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Polite, can I get you to come back up real quick? Just state your name and address. You a superstar, so we know where to find you.
You have to forgive me, Mayor Johnson. I get so passionate, I get right into my subject. My name is Dolores Polite. I live in the city of Brunswick in the 2500 block of Amherst Street.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank
Polite.
you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a public person. My name is William Tresman. I'm 66 years old, almost 67. I retired from CSX Railroad, 38 years as a conductor. I've been living in my area 60-something years. And I own 3 homes within 1 block, and 3 other homes is in my family. I don't have a problem with the alcohol. I have a problem with what it brings. What I'm trying to say, I live in Golden Isle, so I wish we can be represented like Golden Isle people. In other words, just stop putting stuff in our neighborhood that brings down our neighborhood, that we're trying our best to bring it back up. And my thing is basically that it don't very hard to see what's going on. You know what's going on. And we know what the problem, like she said, what we had before with that. We're trying to clean up areas, and we're not trying to use our area just for profit for people who don't even live here. So only thing I'm saying is, as a person who has been here and gonna die here, I care about my community. And I'm just gonna say this real quick. I'm always in my yard cutting the grass. And one day I was in my yard cutting the grass, and a little young boy pulled up and said, hey bro, where's the liquor store in the hood? And it made me mad because I was proud of my neighborhood, because I was born there, I'm gonna die there. But then I said, what's around the corner? So I realized I must be in the hood. And I don't like that. I don't like being called the hood. Because, you know, I feel like 38 years surviving on CSX Railroad, my area, me deserves some type of respect. And like I said, I'm not trying to get anything, for instance, it's just the company that it brings that I have a problem with. Now, if you want to do that, you can go to the plaza, you can go to 5 Point, but there ain't gonna be no loitering around there. You see what I'm saying? That's the only problem I got, the loitering and what it does to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trezvant. Thank you. Any additional speakers?
I wanted to add something before
Yes,
we
ma'am.
get done. And I just want to add, when I was speaking, can you come back up to the podium? So you gave me a look when I was talking about, we have to, we live around here. Now, I don't know where you live. I don't know if you live in the city or county, but I'm quite sure that where you live does not look like where you do business, right? Do you have trash around the street? Do you have beer cans and beer bottles around?
In the property.
It's still not clean to my liking, because like I said, I live over there, I have to ride there to go home. I go there to my barber shop. And regardless if you bribe and pay residents $5, $10, $500, it's still up to the commission for the decision. It still wouldn't make a difference. So I just wanted to let you know, in the event that you have plans to open up another business, it's still up to the 5 of us to make a decision, regardless of how many signatures you get. Okay? All right.
Madam Commissioner, you're dead on. Just want to make sure, as much as possible, that there cannot be and should not be coercion of citizens in any kind of area for business deals. It's best to, I think, when you all went to the MPA, you heard very directly from community leaders and those who represent the community around. And the one thing about our community, it is deeply connected. Can't talk to one person without them going to the other. So I think that's something that owning 3 businesses, you all may need to lock in. And that the other thing is, we think about Norwich and other areas of town that have grocery stores that are doing well, selling meats and vegetables and fruits. And our area of town deserves that same recognition. With that being said, if no more questions are there, we'll open it for a motion.
Yep. Mayor, if I could just
Yep.
add the legal standard on this one. This is under 3-7G distance requirements for this particular type of business. The business is located within 1,500 feet of a residentially zoned property or residentially zoned properties. That places the discretion with the city commission as to deny the approve or deny the license. But upon the motion of denial, there needs to be some statement by the commission that there has been consideration given to whether it's the evidence presented tonight, or if there's one of the commissioners that makes it that saw the evidence at the MPA, that needs to be included in the motion. And that's all.
How about the proximity of the church that was brought out during the public comment?
I'm not certain of the proximity of the church. Churches must be identified within 750 feet of the proposed location, residential property within 1,500 feet. So with regard, there's a 300-foot distance requirement between the proposed location and a church. I'm not certain on that distance. Okay. But I would say it falls squarely in the discretion of the city commission with regards to the other distance requirements.
And so, just so I'm hearing this correctly, a motion made for denial needs to include that Commissioner Roll or I attended an MPA meeting or other meetings to receive evidence that moves this decision forward.
Yes, essentially that there's been consideration given to the evidence that's been presented, and there's a perceived or believed negative impact on the residential community.
I'm going to give it to, I can't make a motion, so I'm going to give it to Commissioner Roll.
I don't have to use that verbatim, right? Rhonda? Okay, all right. So I'd like to make a motion that we deny the beer and wine license for 1603 L Street in regards to negative impact from residents and the proximity for it being in a residential neighborhood.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you all so much.
You know, I'd like to say something, you guys, before you leave. I alluded to when we were talking about our zoning ordinances and all about the neighborhoods having laundromats and every little commercial district in the city. To tell you what else they had. They had a corner grocery store, every single one of them. Not the first one of those grocery stores, and I can call the owners by name. Not the first one of them sold alcohol. None. They all had the stuff that's been asked for tonight in this meeting in those corner grocery stores. Every single one of them. You could go and buy all your fresh produce, fruits, vegetables, and I'm talking about every neighborhood, L Street, all the way through. It did not matter. It was here in Brunswick, Georgia. And now we've digressed to where it almost comes to the point to where we've given up the things that are being asked for tonight for more beverages. And I firmly believe, I really do, that if you exploit the other part of this thing that's been brought in here tonight, you'll be a successful business. I believe that. I really do. So I hope you'll think about that. We hate to deny anybody any right to do business in Brunswick, Georgia.
We
really
used
do.
to, there's one understanding
Yeah.
here, there's almost bigger beer wine license. We just changed the owner right now.
Come
Not a
back
problem.
to us with a
Yep.
different plan.
Oh, yeah, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to 1509 Restaurant Group LLC doing business as 1509 Brunswick. The owners, Corey McGraw and Peter Godson, 1509 Newcastle Street, on-premise consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits.
We had no findings, when Corey, I believe she also owns. You just, oh, your husband owns Chris. So her husband owns Chris only, I thought she did, sorry. But, this will be a rooftop restaurant. So these two, Mr. Peter and Ms. Corey would be the owners.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's good to see you. Good to meet you. We like to hear, we've seen, I think everyone has seen a lot of work going on. I don't think anyone has toured the premises or know what's going on. And, oh, you got a tour? All right. Julie's special. I'm just say me and Kendra ain't get one then. Yeah, I know. Well, now my feelings hurt. Now I thought it was gonna be all of us, but
Get you up.
you got me. All
But
right.
now everybody hadn't gotten one, Mayor.
Everybody, all right, Commissioner Harris, we all left in the dark. But we just want to hear a little bit about the project and what you all plan on doing.
So 1509 is a rooftop restaurant, bar and grill. So it will have indoor seating and outdoor seating. There's 2 levels of rooftop. It will house how many? What's our total occupancy? I believe it's 243 for total occupancy, at one given time for seating for dinner.
Inside or outside?
Both. So it'll seat about 50 inside and then the remainder is exterior seating. The restaurant to begin with will only be open for dinner hours. We will not be open for lunch, and then we will also be open for brunch on Sundays.
Is the restaurant in place now?
It is in the.
I
works.
haven't been in there either, so.
It is not open as of yet. We'll be happy to give you a tour if you would like one.
Thank you.
It will open at the end of this month.
Good, that's great. And it's gonna revolve, is that how it's gonna do? It's gonna turn around? Right here in Brunswick, Georgia, right?
Yes, sir.
That's great, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Does the restaurant and the hotel, same owners?
No, separate owners. We rent from my husband, who's the landlord. He owns the building.
Okay, what's gonna be the name of what's the name of the?
This 1509.
1509 Brunswick is what we'll do business under. We're legally organized as 1509 Restaurant Group LLC.
Is this the first restaurant?
This is our first restaurant.
Right.
Thank you.
Quick question. Have you all thought at all about security? I don't know what time
We
dinner
actually just
is
had that
dinner.
discussion this morning. We
Okay.
plan on either hiring I would like to not hire a private security company. I would rather hire off-duty officers to conduct security during especially once it gets dark, just to make sure our guests and our employees are secure when they're leaving the restaurant.
And I've seen the development a little bit from the outside. The restaurant entrance is front and center, or?
You will enter from the side. So the garden that's on the side or the park that's on the side, there's an entrance there that
Okay.
has stairs and an elevator entrance. So
So on that little square?
Yes,
Mhm.
you will enter on the side.
That little square is Mac and Square. Mac and Square.
Okay, so you enter right there.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good deal. Any additional questions for, well, my last one, what is dinner time? Tell me what's the end?
5 to, what did we decide closing? 5 to, last seating will be at 10, so 5 to 10.
Okay, gotcha.
And then are y'all encouraging people to park to the rear or just wherever downtown that? I mean, there is parking, there's ample parking, but I didn't know if y'all were gonna encourage your employees, let's say, to park to the rear off a Grant and then have the front for patrons.
We also own 1601, the old antiques building, so I have additional parking down there where I can place people if necessary.
Okay.
But employees will be encouraged to park closer to the building because they will be leaving later in the evening.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any additional questions?
My question would be regarding parking. I heard Commissioner Martin say something about it, but my overall question is for parking period. With the development of downtown moving progressively as it is, parking is a definite problem and is not one that has thoroughly been addressed, I don't think, and that needs to be on the forefront of our mind as to how we're going to move forward with the limited parking that there is.
Yeah, and I would certainly encourage y'all to work with, for instance, like Matthew Hill, Downtown Development Authority.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if you've got a seating capacity of 243 guests, and you think about the number of cars that might be, if it's a wedding reception or rehearsal dinner, or whatever it might be, is, and maybe you've done that, is have a parking plan.
Yes.
You know, if you're going to shuttle people, say, to
And we
antiques, et
have that
cetera.
capability through
Okay.
the restaurant. So
Yeah.
so the restaurant will provide the food and beverage for the hotel as well.
Yeah.
And we have doorman and valet as well that will be for the restaurant or for the hotel that we can coordinate all of that.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Will you all be reservation only or open to the public?
We'll kind of split it. So we'll have it where we have reservations, we'll do a certain amount of reservations, but also walk-ins. We don't want to strictly do reservations. We want to allow people to be able to walk up and walk into the restaurant.
Good deal. And will there be any sort of dress code or anything
Not
like that?
necessarily. It will be a little more upscale dining, but I'm not going to turn you away if you have a baseball cap on.
Got it. I was about to say, that's why I didn't get invited to the tour. I understand. Nah, I think the interesting thing about downtown, right, and that's different than everywhere else is, I think downtown is a pretty tight-knit and close community of those who've worked with each other to help, build downtown to what we see it and probably attract someone like you and your husband. Have you all had conversations with other business owners in the downtown corridor to work with them on, security, or ask them questions
Yes.
about how we do X or Y or Z, or even the parking question, which is a question not just for you all, it's a question for us and I think the entire community. So have you built that relationship, and have you all done that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. We have a pretty close relationship with most of the businesses downtown.
Okay.
We've worked from them from the beginning, from buying the building to developing it. We've created a pretty good community downtown on Newcastle.
Any additional questions from the commission before we go public comment?
No, I'm excited. I'm excited about the restaurant, and I know a lot of other people that are excited about it. So I'm happy to hear that you all are gonna have it split with reservations and walk-ins, and I'm looking forward to my invitation and my tour.
Come on,
Yeah.
we can go down.
So happy that y'all came in with the hotel concept. I think in the beginning, it was gonna be something else.
Yes, sir. It was gonna be condominiums.
When I heard that, it just tickled me to death, because just like the other stuff I've talked about with the little neighborhood grocery stores and all, we had tourist homes down here, we had hotels. Everything was centered right here in downtown Brunswick. So this is really coming back to where we were down here. The Zell building over here next to the old bank, that was a hotel. Most people don't know it, but it was. And so you're bringing it back. You
Yes, sir.
really are. And I can't tell you the grin it brought on my face when I read that y'all had changed business and you were going to have a hotel there. It just ran chills up and down me. It really did. So thank you very much. for
Yes,
that.
sir.
Appreciate you. Any additional comment? And if not, we'll open it up for any public comment we have for 1509 Restaurant Group. Any public comment that we have for 1509 Restaurant Group? Seeing none, we'll open it up for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the license for on premise for 1509 Restaurant Group LLC.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you all.
Thank you.
Move on to Newcastle Wine Merchant. Brandon Bordeaux. Dang.
En français. En français.
I'm going to that French 101 class at the library. I'm gonna get it together.
I think he didn't watch.
I did.
Hello, city
Appreciate you.
commissioners. Some of you have already met in person. Others look forward to getting to know you better, but I've been in the Golden Isles now for 5 years. Working at Sea Island, then ran a champagne bar on St. Simon's, and really am thrilled with people like the Crest Building and others like Schroeder, really creating, I think, what Brunswick has been anticipating for a while, which is, I think the chamber called it a renaissance, and really was attracted to that and really want to help create good vibes in the community and create experiences and help educate the community, bring wines that didn't exist before to the coast of Georgia, and make them affordable, accessible, and that's my concept. So.
Right.
Appreciate that. I see you are on Newcastle, right in the downtown district. Appreciate that. Any questions from the commission?
So are you able to do tastings at all, or it's?
So
As a pa-
addressing that, I've been working closely with the city attorney and other individuals to work to make an amendment or add a license that would allow me to do dual off and on premise. For the meantime, I will be solely selling off premise wine until that new change hopefully happens.
So
correct.
that falls under some of the new
Yes,
ordinance okay,
that's correct.
that's great.
And is that Brian, that's capturing the same thing like Schroeder's.
It is, and as recently, obviously, there was a work session where we presented the newest amendment to the alcohol ordinance. There was several questions about tastings. I do think there's actually a contradiction in the law that there is a potential that Brandon's business could potentially seek out a special permit for that type of tasting. I'm waiting to hear back some guidance from GMA because the amendment that I discussed last time we were here in the code section that they put forth, I think there's something wrong with that between the Department of Revenue regulations, which do address tastings. So I'm just waiting to hear back a little bit of guidance on GMA, and then we might be able to move forward. Either way, we're still intending to bring back the alcohol ordinance amendment, which if passed, he could also fall into that newly created class, and he'd be the appropriate business to move forward that way as well.
So he wouldn't have to come forward again or would he, to add that component, or?
I think that might be something we just need to internally kind of figure out and discuss as to whether or not we look at businesses that are currently licensed, validly licensed, and whether or not they want to convert if there's a new ordinance. Obviously, ordinances would cover any previous licensee in terms of grandfathering. So we can obviously discuss that internally and bring back some sort of solution to that.
Okay. So how does Mr. Boudreaux's business differ from like Richland Rum? Because you can go in and taste.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry, what business?
How does Mr. Boudreaux's business differ from, and granted, I know they're a distillery, but. From
That's how it differs.
Richland-
I mean, that's
it.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in 2018, when we had those businesses opening, we did create special classification for breweries, distilleries, and farm wineries. Those three types of businesses, and that's what we'd be looking to do with the wine specialty shop. Those three types of businesses are bestowed
Fall under.
unique powers by the state law. So
Okay.
that's how it falls.
Great. Thank you.
My only question is that somehow different than what we discussed last time as far as hospitality? Like why, if
would
you
still,
walked in and he said, I'm using these as hospitality drinks, does it not capture, or is that something different if you're actually selling the wine product?
I think what we'd be looking to do is doing the wine specialty shop would be its own specific classification that would address a business like Brandon's. And I think that would address both the retail package sale as well as if he was offering the tastings or the glass of wine. So it would be separate, in my opinion. I guess it would be separate and unique from the complimentary service.
Any additional questions?
Currently, we're just doing some slight interior design right now, painting some walls, but as soon as we get granted our appropriate licenses to sell alcohol, we could open pretty much immediately.
And you got your crew here too, don't you?
I do. So my brother and Javier, my fiance, Kelly, Lance, a few people that are in support, the Herndons, which are my landlords and also good friends and acquaintances. And I sent to you also some letters of support from the community. I also have them in paper if you wanted to see them, of people that have known me since I've moved to the Golden Isles and can attest of the positive impact that they can see that I will have in the Brunswick area once my business opens or could open.
So you don't anticipate doing any beer at all? You're wine exclusively?
I plan strictly on selling specifically wine, and just probably some like accessories such as like glassware, other merchandise.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We will open it up for any type of public comment. You step a little bit to the side. You got somebody coming behind you.
I'm David Herndon. As Brandon said, my wife and I own the building 1328 Newcastle Street. We lease half the building. We operate our business, Grace Graffiti, out of the other half. And I just wanted to show some support for Brandon because when our retail space became available for rent, we had a lot of options, a lot of people we could have rented to. We met Brandon and Priscilla, and just after one conversation, we realized this guy really knows what he's doing. It's going to be a great addition. We've lived in downtown Brunswick for 20 years. We've owned our business here for over a decade. And we just think Newcastle Wine Shop would be exactly what Brunswick needs, something cool, something different. And would just be a real great addition to the city. So I hope you'll support him like we do. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Mr. Lance. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second. I forgot his name. Can we get you just state your name and
Oh,
address?
David Herndon.
David Herndon.
He lives on Albany.
There we go.
1328 Newcastle.
1328.
Oh,
Okay,
1328.
sorry about that. Thank you.
Are you ready, Naomi? Lance Saby, 1110 Prince Street. Mayor Commissioners, I've had the opportunity to meet with Brandon a lot. I think he's really, sorry, over there. You know, it's great to see new entrepreneurs come into our community, and I think we're in a great position to give them the opportunity to be successful. You know, one of the other nice things is that he has a couple of really good landlords, right? So I think, you know, Brandon bringing this wine shop to our community is going to be huge and significant. We've heard some of the problems earlier that other retail sales can have. And I think it's refreshing to see somebody, I think, who's in a position to actually improve our community, and to your point, Commissioner Roll, to bring other things to our community and give back, not just by opening a business, but by also doing other things in our community. Please support that.
Thank you. Any additional people to speak? All right, you can come on back up. You didn't pay them $5, did you?
I did not.
I gotta know. There's kind of stuff I gotta know.
Good question.
All right, hearing no other comments, any other questions from the commission? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the retail sales of wine for Brandon Boudreaux at Newcastle Wine Merchant, 1328 Newcastle Street.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you so much. Man, I have not received that many applause all day. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna say that as on me now. Really quick, we did not amend the agenda to include something, but I know we have an update, and I want to jump to it really quick if I can, just take a personal point of privilege. We have an update regarding CDBG DR funds, and a notice of an award is very quickly. Miss Roxanne George, if you just come tell us about the great work the staff has done, the city has done to bring these dollars to our community.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission, and I will be very brief because I know you've had a long night already. We just wanted to make the announcement and give the update that we're celebrating because as you know, we were the first city in the state of Georgia to open our outreach center and take applications for the CDBG DR program. And on February 14th, we were the first location to actually get an award letter from DCA to allow us to move forward with the home. So we talked to the Finance Committee this week about proceeding with a notice of award to a contractor that has come up with a satisfactory plan and bid for the property. And we will be starting with getting some construction finally underway.
Can you just tell us real quick what CDBG DR stands for?
Sorry, yes.
There we go. No problem.
I spent the first month figuring that out, memorizing that. So yes, it's Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. And just to make it a little more lengthy, it's actually the homeowner rehabilitation and reconstruction program.
Perfect. Well, we thank you for that work and thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am? I don't have any questions, Commissioner. Thank you for your work, and we are happy to work, not only commission and staff, to ensure that we bring those dollars back to our community. We will now move on to appointments. We have one appointment for the Glenn County Board of Health, and my appointment will be Ms. Valerie Hepburn. She has already served valiantly in that position, and I'm happy to reappoint her. We will now move on to Number 4 under items to consider for approval, which we're moving into. Consider approval of February 15, 2022 regularly scheduled meeting minutes. We'll now open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February the 15th, 2022.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to consider approval of a contract with Georgia Asphalt Producers to construct an additional turn lane on Gloucester Street at US Highway 17 and intersection improvements at Lanier Boulevard and Gloucester Street. Director Alverson. When I read yours, I give you time to come up here. You give me sentences to read. That's a whole thing.
Kind of long title. huh?
It is.
Let's find the right packet here. Okay. Lanier Gloucester improvements. You're all familiar with the congestion and the traffic issues that we have at the Lanier Gloucester intersection. I think you're probably pretty familiar with the history of it. We initiated a traffic study, which was completed in March 2020, is completed through the BATS organization, completed by Pond and Company. And the results of that study indicated that the congestion could be relieved or conditions improved by adding another left turn lane from Gloucester onto northbound 17, widening that intersection there, that turn lane, and then making some improvements at Lanier Boulevard to better control the traffic turning in and out of Lanier from Gloucester. Right now, it's a split intersection, as you know. We would take the left turn lane, make it outbound or northbound only, turning left onto Gloucester. There would be no incoming traffic from Gloucester onto Lanier there. All traffic would turn onto Lanier at the east leg of that intersection nearest the park. And then you would only have right turns out of that intersection onto Gloucester, trying to help to control and those turning movements there. One thing to note too is the study also addressed pedestrian crossing in that area. And we haven't forgotten about that. Since 2020, since the traffic study was completed, we've hired Pond to advance the study through the design process and through the GDOT permitting process. We've completed the design and have the permit for the traffic widening. That permit is in hand for the traffic work. With the pedestrian permitting, it's a much longer permitting process there. So we've kind of pulled that out as a separate project. We're still working on that, but we've gone ahead and kind of advanced the road work because of the GDOT resurfacing of Highway 17. We're looking to trying to get the road work done to try to stay ahead of that resurfacing. And then the pedestrian facilities can come at a later date. So we did, like I said, we advanced that. We've gotten the design and permit completed. We put the project out to bid. We got one bid on it for $585,950.15. That's from Georgia Asphalt Producers. So we've reviewed the bid. We've gone through those numbers. We do feel like it's a reasonably priced bid. Feel like those numbers are in line. They're ready to begin within the next several weeks, and in order to try and stay ahead and get our portion of the project completed before the GDOT resurfacing. One thing about kind of working in conjunction here with GDOT, with that widening, you have the pavement widening, but you also have the new signal design. You have to have another signal and redesign of the pedestrian and traffic signals there. GDOT is going to take on the cost of the signal design and installation there for that. We're only responsible for the pavement widening portion of it. So they'll relieve us of the signal design, which is a significant cost there. So that's it. So we're asking for approval to move ahead with the contract with Georgia Asphalt Producers for $585,950 for the intersection improvements at Lanier Gloucester and Highway 17.
Yes, sir. My two quick questions, just so I'm hearing it correctly. When I'm coming out, like if I'm coming out of Howard Coffin Park, I can no longer take that other lane to turn left on Gloucester? After,
You will take that other
No.
turn lane.
you will take that. other-
You will,
Okay,
you'll take the left lane to turn left.
got you.
You
got
can't
you.
turn left out of the right lane.
Out of the right lane, got you. Okay, okay, okay. Perfect. All right. Just wanted-
One thing I didn't mention, the funding for this,
Yep, that's right.
almost $586,000.
Yep.
It will be split between LMIG funding. We'll take $215,000 from our LMIG that we get annually from GDOT, and the remaining 370 will come from ARPA funds that we previously designated for storm drains. We'll move those over to the roadway funding.
Carol, what's gonna happen to the little triangle there?
At the Lanier intersection, it will stay. It will stay there. We're gonna slightly realign the left leg of that intersection, but not enough to get rid of that little triangle. We'll keep that, and we're looking at options right now for the crosswalk there, and we've kind of got two locations we're looking at. One of those locations is for it to cross right there at that triangle. So that may be a good kind of a
To give you a
landing
good
spot, if you
base,
will.
good base for it.
Right. The other option we're looking at is further down, kind of about halfway between the east leg of Lanier and Macon Avenue, more along with the ball field. So
I don't know where I picked it up, but somewhere in some of the, our conversation, we're talking about Gloucester Street. I wasn't very amenable to it. I hadn't changed a whole bunch either, but I thought that the triangle was going away, and I'm happy to hear it's gonna stay there because that's character. It really is to have that thing there. And I thought this whole time somewhere I picked up it was obsolete.
that's it will stay.
I'm glad we're holding on to it.
The-
It makes a character there. It really does.
It makes me really nervous when you start talking about kids, because probably going to be primarily kids, that, hopefully they might be with an adult when they're crossing. If you're gonna not only ask drivers to be watchful of cars, because you know how they're turning every which way. And now you want them to look for pedestrians. I don't know. I just think that whole mix that's not the right place for the crossing. It needs to be a standalone farther up. If you need to put the rumble strips down or something that, I know it's going to have the beacons, but I just think it needs to be a separate area that cars have already navigated through whatever turns they might need to do before the pedestrian crossing.
To your point.
So I would just encourage that thinking to be thought through a little bit more. And then the other question I have is, so GDOT is paying just for that portion of the paving on Gloucester, and this 585 is like from Gloucester down Lanier a certain distance and also what's on 17? I'm just trying to clarify.
Right. We will widen that intersection.
Right.
Gloucester going through,
Yep.
through the intersection there. And new curbing and everything, and we will bring that up to, we'll have to do some milling there to make the grades work and surfaces work. And we'll pave everything to bring it back to the base course. And then when they come through resurfacing 17, they will resurface the entire thing. If you remember, they stopped at Gloucester Street resurfacing right at Macon Avenue. So with the 17 resurfacing, they'll do all of
Okay.
17 and that leftover section. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So that 585 then truly is just for what's going to occur right there on
At the end.
Lanier.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, just a statement. Because what Commissioner Martin was commenting on about the pedestrian walkways. is going to be very important because we are going to be in making sure that that is configured with the safety concerns in mind, because we are going to be getting recreation back. And so where there is not as much activity taking place at that location, the activity is going to be increased, and you are going to have more children and more people using that area again. So we need to make sure that we address that with great consideration.
You know, I think that when you do put a crosswalk there, that it's not going to just be children, it's going to be adults too. It really is, because you've got the walking path over there now that we didn't have before, and that thing is really used. I mean, that is an asset of this community. And I think it's used by a lot of adults that live in Urbana Park that get out there before the sun comes up too. So I think they will cherish having a safe place to go across that street. I agree, a lot of kids are going to be there, no question. I was one of them at one time. I'm happy to say that I walked across this safely for about 6 years until we graduated at O'Malley Ballpark from Howard Coffin Park.
Any additional questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Georgia Asphalt Producers to construct the additional turn lane on Gloucester Street at US Highway 17 and intersection improvements at Lanier Boulevard and Gloucester Street in the amount of $585,950.15.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Director, real quick question. I probably should ask this before we conclude it, but how does traffic change at all while you're doing this work?
There'll be, traffic control will be a challenge out there.
Are they gonna send them? I'm trying to figure out where you send them. Do you send them down like by McDonald's? And then come out that?
I don't know how much you can reroute. I mean, you're gonna have people that are gonna go through there anyway. I think we would kind of encourage the school to ask for their traffic to go to 4th Avenue and use the south end entrance down there. You know, you're still gonna have a ton of traffic coming, just
So
traffic morning and afternoon traffic in and out. We can encourage the schools to hopefully encourage their kids to go different ways,
Okay.
parents, but still traffic control is gonna be tough.
Yeah, I think to that point, communication
Yeah.
with the school and with parents as much as possible is going to be important.
You know, ideally, we would wait until school was out to do this, but being
Can't.
pushed by the resurfacing
DOT.
project, we may not be able to wait that long.
Miss Atkinson, can you put down for to-dos to make sure we give a call over to Scott Spence?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the school board to let them know this work is coming, and let's try and produce some traffic plan, at least for schools during that time. Thank you so much. Moving on, consider approval of an agreement with Swindle Construction Company for construction phase 2 improvements at Mary Ross Waterfront Park.
Okay, this is more or less phase 2 of our master plan for the park. Phase 1 was infrastructure improvements underneath the dock, some foundation improvements, piling improvements underneath the dock, which we completed several years ago. So now we've taken several aspects of the master plan and combined them into what we're calling phase 2. And a lot of that is primarily access to the dock or to the park. Kind of focused on the south end, the Gloucester Street end of the park. We'll be improving the end of Gloucester Street west of Bay Street as it comes into the park with a new surface, new paving there, turnaround for vehicles, larger vehicles, buses, delivery trucks that service the ships there, some parking, sidewalk and access areas along beside that. we will bring the brick plaza that currently runs about halfway down the park. We'll bring that, continue that on down and tie that into the new driveway or the new parking area. And we've got some improvements to the fishing pier there, including a handrail on that south end of the fishing pier. And some improvements for the fishermen there. And then we've got the project will also include a nice arched brick pedestal and arched entrance sign there as you enter the area coming off of Bay Street right there. So, and then of course, landscape and irrigation and some lighting improvements to go along. So we got the design done for all of that. Put that project out to bid. Got a bid back on that one of almost $1.5 million. So that was a little more than we felt like we should spend on that. So we sat down with that contractor and did some value engineering on that and kind of reduced some costs and moved a couple of things around in there. We're going to do a couple of those things ourselves, and then we're able to negotiate down some other pricing in there and got the cost of this project, contractor's cost down to $841,383. That cost will be paid from $66,000 that we have remaining in SPLOST 6 for Mary Ross Park. $250,000 from SPLOST 6 that's undesignated funding, overage funding, maybe the interest funding, currently undesignated. We use 250 of that. And then $580,000 of ARPA funds, again, that were originally for storm drainage. We'll be moving those over for the roadway portion of the project. The contractor, on my last conversation with him, they're ready to begin work probably around April 1st. That will give us time to get contracts and bonds and that kind of stuff in place and order some materials. They're ready to get going, and we're estimating about a 120-day turnaround on this. So.
So all of this work will be in the park? You won't have tie up Bay Street or anything like that?
No, sir, it'll all be west of the railroad track.
What will what do you envision the sign looking like?
It's a brick columns on each side, about, I don't know, 5-6 feet high, and then it's a black tubular sign with kind of a plate in it with Mary Ross Park letters, Mary Ross Waterfront Park letters.
Arch over that full width of entry.
No, not over the full width, because of the buses and trucks coming in there, the foundations and the pedestals on each side will be so big to have to clear that clearance. So it will be in the median portion of it, which is pretty wide there, but it won't be over the entire travelway.
So how deep in?
It will be behind the Georgia Ports driveway. You know, they've got their main
Closer to the water.
right.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah,
their trucks will turn in without having to navigate the side.
Okay. That was the point I was getting to. Okay, thank you. I figured you had thought that one through.
Yeah, we tried
Trucks
to
and
make it
buses
span the
and-
whole thing, but those columns and those foundations just got huge over there.
Mm-hmm.
So this will take that dip out, this down and take care of all of that?
It will.
Yeah.
You know, we just, we lined that storm pipe going through there. That was the problem there. We had leaking joints in that storm pipe. So we've installed a liner in that to remove the leaks, take care of the leaks. So, as we're rebuilding this pavement, you know, we'll backfill and recompact all of that. So yes, sir, that'll take out all that dip and those surface irregularities there. And then come back with a new paved surface there in the parking area.
Is
That'll be
there
a major improvement.
going to be any parking straight towards the waterfront, or because of the vehicles that are going to be coming in and out, the parking is going to be oriented more to the front and then to the north?
There will be parking behind the sign. Like I said, the sign will be just after you pass the porch driveway. So you'll come down. The drive aisles will be on the outside. You would come down, make a loop, and then the parking will be in the center, but sort of in the median between those two, the in and out aisle, and it'll be angled parking
Okay.
in there.
Mhm.
Any additional questions? I know this has been a long time coming.
It
You
has.
guys have been working on it a long time, and I'm gonna steal that word, value engineering. I like that. So appreciate the work that you all have done to get this into a reasonable price range for us to continue to move. The thing, mine is more of a comment, not a question. Thank you for giving us the breakdown of the dollars. The 580,000 out of ARPA. I know that's, kind of been moved around. But I do want to specifically state this week or this past week, I had a chance to meet with Miss Hillary and some others over by Inez. What park was that?
Williams.
Inez Williams Park. One of the streets I walked with her down, they have a severe drainage problem in that area, but one of the streets that I walked with her down was in that she lives on receives extreme flooding from the way Glen Middle was almost built up. And so all of that impervious surface dumps water down into that community. And the second piece is the ditch next to her home. I mean, it's overgrown. It doesn't even look like a ditch anymore. And so I know that needs to be excavated. I know the city needs to do our part to excavate that, clean that out, whatever piping needs to be put in there. So I don't want to move 580,000 out of storm drainage without clearly stating openly that we know we have drainage problems, and we are thankful for the additional SPOS dollars that have come in. So we're going to tackle those issues, but to make sure that we're using those remaining dollars to make sure we tackle issues like that fairly quickly.
Also, not to get too far off track here, we've gotten a grant. We're working with Georgia DNR and the Board of Education, and we've gotten a National Fish and Wildlife Fund grant to study and design improvements for that whole end of town.
Okay.
From Gloucester, the Glen Middle School area, all that between 4th Street and MLK and that whole drainage area to try to make some drainage improvements there. And so we're kind of getting that project kicked off right now.
Well, I wanted to make clear, I know Commissioner rolled down there with me too to see it. So we're going to be bothering you about that a little bit later, but as we move those dollars around, we want to be clear that we are keeping substantial amounts of dollars in drainage to make sure we handle those issues around the city. With that, I'm glad to move forward on this, and any other questions? If I hear none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement with Swindle Construction Company for the construction of Phase 2 improvements at Mary Ross Waterfront Park in the amount of $841, $841,383.
There we go. Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We'll now move on to consider approval to purchase a backhoe tractor from Yancey Brothers Equipment Company in the amount of $107,537.
Okay, this is a piece of equipment to be used in our cemeteries division. Those guys, the crew uses a backhoe to open and close the graves out there. So with the 3 cemeteries, that tractor is used daily, if not multiple times a day. So it gets a lot of use, and the current one that they're working with is about 20 years old and starting to see some failures and some issues with it. So we budgeted for one this year. We went out and solicited quotes from it. We asked, we got state contract quotes, which have already been bid down by the vendors. We got 3 quotes. Lowest was $101,890. Anywhere from, and the highest was $119,300. we're recommending the middle quote of those, 107,537. It's a Caterpillar machine from Yancey Equipment. We're recommending that machine because of the quality of Caterpillar. They're known to be top of the line in construction equipment, but also the fact that Yancey is a local dealer, and trying to keep our money here at home where we can. Like I said, this is budgeted through our general fund in the cemeteries division, Public Works Cemeteries Division. We would purchase this through the GMA lease purchase program, which is basically a 5-year financing plan. We would make this purchase. The machine would be scheduled to be delivered around October. That would mean our first payment would come this fall in November. So we would budget for that in 24 in our upcoming budget. So 24 through 28 would include a payment for this at approximately $21,500 per year, which we would budget for each year. So.
Yes, sir. That's a pretty straightforward one. Any questions there?
Are you trading the old backhoe in, or what's happening to that? Good.
We will probably, we may sell it on Gov Deals. We're not gonna make a trade with Yancey or anything like that. We may sell it on Gov Deals if we think we can get a little bit for it. It's too old. It's past the point of using for parts. You know, everything's more modernized now, so.
Yeah, are y'all taking that thing back and forth to Public Works, the old one to Public Works, or leaving it?
Yes, sir. It goes back, it stays in our yard overnight and drives back and forth to the cemetery.
My suggestion with this one, and I hope it'll be approved, I know it's needed, is that if you do leave it at the cemeteries, let's build a place out there to cover it up and take care of this one the way we didn't do that old one. That old one sat out there until y'all started carrying it out there.
Yes, and now we don't, because we don't have any secure place to keep it, it travels back to the yard every afternoon. And this year we just built a new pole barn out there, so it's got roof cover to keep it out of the sun and the rain, so it will stay under the new shelter there. So
How long does it take to drive that thing out there, Gara?
it's probably 10 minutes, maybe.
Is that
It's
all?
not- Maybe 15. It's not
Yeah.
terribly long.
Yeah.
Cold some days.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the Caterpillar backhoe tractor from Yancey Brothers for $107,537. I got bifocals.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, thank you, Director. We'll now move on to Commissioner Kason's items, and we'll open it up to Commissioner.
Well, I would like to turn it over again to our good friend Alice Keyes and her delegation here. And I will just say that along when I was growing up here again, to get to the beach was something else. To get to St. Simon's. Jekyll was not available when I was a kid until I got in the Boy Scouts, but the Okefenokee Swamp was cherished by people, and it's just to be cherished for years and years and years to come, and not to be touched. It's to be there with every protection, every single thing we can give to that precious asset, resource. Any way you want to describe it, God gave it to us, and we need to protect it. It's up to us. It really is. Thank you, Alice. I appreciate everything you folks are doing. I really do.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Kason.
That-
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alice Miller Keyes, and I'm the Vice President of Coastal Conservation with 100 Miles. It's a pleasure to be with you again this afternoon, this evening. I know.
You got here early.
As you recall, at the last meeting, you gave me the pleasure of the microphone and Commissioner Kason support to talk about a resolution in favor of protecting the Okefenokee Swamp.
During that discussion, we talked about the significance of the Okefenokee to the state and to our, as a national treasure, as Commissioner Kaysen had said, it's got a lot of personal impact, those of us who've had the privilege to go. And it contributes to the regional tourism. It's a real regional tourism draw. And a lot of people come to and stay in Brunswick and the Golden Isles and travel the 45 minutes to go to the swamp, go to Cumberland Island and go to Sapelo Island as well. We also discussed that the Okefenokee has been nominated to be recognized as a World Heritage Site, and that it is that right now the Georgia General Assembly is considering passing the Okefenokee Protection Act, or House Bill 71, that would preserve the long-term health and integrity of the Okefenokee Swamp for generations to come. The draft that was before you in February included some language regarding the local industry, and that was of concern. We talked a lot about that. And at the time, we had a few members of the community from Charlton County here. Unfortunately, they are not able to, I was not able to pull them over to Brunswick tonight because the Charlton County Indians boys basketball made it to the Elite Eight. And so every member of their community is at the basketball game tonight.
And our girls are in the Final Four.
That's right. That's right. Go Brunswick High. So anyway, unfortunately, we were not able to bring over any Charlton County residents tonight, but we have quite a few people here who are here in support of the reconsideration of the resolution. I was able to send you a packet, thanks to Ms. Atkinson, a packet of additional information that you had requested. I hope it was sufficient. And again, we've adjusted, Commissioner Kaysen and I adjusted the language in the resolution based on our conversation in February. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but if it pleases the commission, I really hope that you would pass the resolution to encourage the protection of the Okefenokee swamps for generations to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the work you and your group have done. It was a pleasure to spend some time with you up in Atlanta. I saw you up there lobbying away, making sure that each of our representatives understood the importance of House Bill 71. Was able to spend some time with Representative Townsend and then talk to him about House Bill 71, as well as Representative Saines and others who are contiguous to the area, all very much in support, all working to get it across the line in this very condensed session. So I appreciate your work in that space. And at the same time, I appreciate the work that you have done with the local community there in Charlton County as they continue to make their voice heard on what's important to them locally. And we'll continue to support them to make sure that every side of that argument is heard as they continue their fight to make sure the correct industry comes to their community or is removed from their community. We also want to give full respect to Governor Kemp, the EPD, and others who are currently using their scientific tools and scientific know-how to look at this project, whether to deem it feasible or not feasible. And we want to provide them all of the fair and open and honest space to make that assessment. So I want to thank you for your work. I'm in complete support of supporting not only the designation, but House Bill 71 to ensure that we continue to protect what is a natural resource jewel in our region. So with that, I'll open it up with any questions or comments from the commission.
I'll just echo what the mayor said, that we appreciate all that y'all do and being good stewards of our community and making sure that it's here. Not only what we have right here, but the Okefenokee and other places that are so important for generations to come. So thank you for taking the time to kind of go back and do what needed to be done and look at it a little bit more closely and change the wording.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. Any additional questions or concerns? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-06.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you so much.
You know, I too would like to thank Alice for all that she's done. She has stayed the course with this thing and has done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to city attorney items. Consider adoption of proposed ordinance number 1077, amendment to chapter 22 utilities ordinance. You can come on up if you, yeah, we're probably gonna be.
Rely on her, yeah.
Yeah.
What you have before you tonight, ordinance number 1077. It was presented at the last city commission meeting. It is an ordinance that has been brought forth by the Joint Water Sewer Commission. As you guys know, the county and the city both maintain water and sewer ordinances that the Joint Water and Sewer also relies upon in the administration of their duties. They brought forth certain amendments that we presented and discussed and got into some of the leak situations at the last commission meeting. Ms. LaDonna Roberts is here also if there are any additional questions, but it has been advertised. I don't believe we've received any public comments, so it is before you tonight for approval.
I want to take a moment, Commissioner Harris. I think maybe you had some additional questions the first time it came through. So I know you're online, so I want to make sure we don't move swiftly on this one.
Okay, no, I'm good.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Any questions? I know we went through the ordinance at length at the last meeting. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Jason, you want to do it?
I cannot make a motion.
Wait, I'll make a motion that we approve and adopt the proposed ordinance number 1077, amendment to chapter 22 of the utilities ordinance.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. We'll now move on to number 10, excess tax proceeds.
Not much of an applause on that one, I guess. Yes, what you have before you tonight is I think these have come before you in the past. It's been somewhat irregular as they come through, but we take them as the claims are made. This one, if you recall, the last time one came before the commission, it was for the 2400 Reynolds Street property. The present request is for 220 West River Road, Brunswick, Georgia 31520. It is a request from the Glenn County Tax Commissioner's Office for excess proceeds generated at the city's tax sale. The excess proceeds generated at the city's tax sale were in excess of $3,000. The city, of course, subtracted the cost of the sale and the taxes that were owed to the city, the reason for the sale, of course. And now there's an overage amount that remains with the city's finance department. The state law provides that certain claimants can come along, make claims to those funds, and we dole them out in a certain hierarchy. Most of the time it could be the record owner if they don't have a security deed on the property. But if you looked at it from the importance of hierarchy, it would be tax liens, security deed holders, and then the record owner if there's nothing above the two. In this particular instance, the county held their own tax liens over this particular property. So as a result, they filed this overage claim. Would be one of the top priorities of the claimants. The amount that they are claiming is $1,909.31. This was brought before the Finance Committee at Monday's meeting. I believe it was Monday, with a recommendation to bring forth to the City Commission. I do think these are important as the city and county continue to do tax sales for delinquent ad valorem taxes, so it avoids any secondary tax sale issues. So if the city sells first, the county can claim the excess funds. If the county sells first, the city can make a claim for the excess funds. Everybody gets paid.
Ryan, give us that address and name of the street again, please.
Yes, sir. It is 220 West River Road, Brunswick, Georgia, 31520. Parcel number, I believe, is 0107495.
And West River Road is where?
It's West River.
That's what I was wondering.
Where?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I believe it's in Liberty Harbor.
I would guess that's the only place it could be.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
should
got a
know.
little common sense. That's what my common sense tells
I'm
me.
almost certain it's in Liberty Harbor. Okay, thank you, John.
Liberty Harbor.
Director
This
Hunter
is-
has confirmed it is in Liberty
Okay.
Harbor.
Gotcha.
So I would bring this forth to you tonight with a recommendation of approval, so that it can satisfy the taxes owed to the county, and we can move on.
I don't have any questions. Any questions or comments?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve the payment of the excise tax proceeds from the tax sale of parcel number 01-04148 in the amount of $1,909.31.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, City Attorney. I think we do, right. In all the class. We are
We
breaking.
do have need for executive session for the purposes of litigation,
For the purposes of
potential
litigation.
litigation.
Potential litigation. Before we break, I do want to make a quick statement. I want to send our prayers to Mr. Milburn, who is not only a business owner in Brunswick, but somebody who has called Brunswick home, and his business has called Brunswick home for a long time. And I also had the unique pleasure of my campaign office was his next door. My church is next door to Mr. Milburn, and he was violently attacked downtown. When we have violent moments, and especially random acts of violence here in our community, it is incumbent upon the leaders of our city to respond in cohesive and transparent ways to ensure that we protect all of our citizens of Brunswick. We have had safety issues in our inner core, and to answer those safety issues, we have given all of our police substantial raises. We have recruited heavily. We have brought in additional officers. We have reinstituted a very smart gang unit. And in the same way, we must now respond to the violence and to the issues that we see surrounding not only our downtown core, but our south side as a whole. Because of that, it is important for this commission to begin conversations, deep conversations, and exploratory meetings on nuisance properties inside of the downtown core. At the next meeting, we will be having a very frank and open conversation, not only amongst ourselves, but with community partners about nuisance properties that are inside of our city, that are drawing and attracting those who may be causing issues around our city. That being said, we are thankful for all 501c3s. We are thankful for all nonprofits who see it as their God-given understanding and their God-given calling to help those who are less fortunate, to clothe the naked, and to feed the hungry. That is not only their calling, but a calling upon us as a city as well. But it is also a calling upon our city to keep us safe and to do that in a way that puts them on a path to sustainability and stability. And we have to start that conversation right now. So that being said, I'm looking forward and hope that we have a packed house next week as we bring forward on the agenda deep exploratory conversations and meetings on handling nuisance properties inside of our downtown core. With that, we will adjourn for executive session.
I'll
I'll
make-
open it for a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn to executive session for litigation.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. We're adjourned for executive session.
We'll be in meeting week after next, not.
We have returned from executive session. No action was taken. I think we can good to go ahead and adjourn. We'll make the adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second? Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We are adjourned.